Hello. Hi guys. So, this video is going to be about prosperity and abundance, and if you're on the Mystic Hut page, you know that I talked a little bit about the difference between prosperity and abundance. And so, my little sister's throwing a temper tantrum. Ignore her. So we're going to talk about first of all, what I do to keep abundance flowing in my house, and we're going to be talking about prosperity and abundance, and what I do to keep prosperity and abundance flowing in my house. So, what is prosperity and abundance, first of all? I kind of talked about this a little bit. Abundance is sort of like when you... How can I explain this? Abundance is sort of like when you've done so much work that you have prosperity. Okay, first of all, you have to start with prosperity. I'm sorry, guys. Prosperity is what you reap from what you sow, and abundance is that you've reaped more than what you expected, and so you don't have to work for some while. So there was a fly, guys. Anyway, so when you have an overflow of prosperity, that's when you get abundance. So, for example, when a farmer plants so much crop when a farmer sows a good crop and he reaps what he needs to make his living for that year, or what he needs to live off of for that year, and then he has enough that he can sell some. The stuff that he can sell is abundance, because that's extra being brought into the household. That's extra food that he can go out and sell to bring other foods into the household. Okay, what else? And the same thing can be said about work. Like when you do a good job at work and you get a raise, or when you do a good job at work and so you learn to put some aside, that is prosperity and abundance. You've reaped what you needed to pay your bills, to feed, and to keep everything going, and then you learn to put some aside so when hard times fall, or when you need to take some days off, or when you just want to take a break, you have money that you can be like, okay, this is abundance money. I've done my work, I paid my dues, and now I need some time off. So we are going to talk about a couple of things that I do for abundance. And if you see me look over, you're seeing me look at notes on my computer. So let us begin. We're going to start with the herbs. Okay. So here are some herbs and some other things that I use. Some herbs and some other things that I use for money magic. We have Angelica. Now, Angelica isn't really a root for money magic necessarily, but it's more for power. And so what I would suggest with this is, what I do with this is, there's a lot of unfair treatment in the workplace when it comes to females, and Angelica is sort of a root that enhances feminine power. And so when you have a woman that wants a raise, or a woman that wants to climb the oh my gosh, who wants to break the glass ceiling? I think that's like the old school term for it. I forget what I was trying to say. But when she's trying to she's trying to climb the corporate ladder. When she's trying to climb the corporate ladder, you might give her an mojo bag with Angelica in it, along with some other herbs and some other things. Some other herbs that are very important, but Angelica offers female power. And the reason that this is important is that, first of all, a lot of root workers, lots of magical practitioners are women, more so than men. I noticed that it's more of a thing that women do instead of men. Not to sound sexist. Shout out to all my dudes that practice. What's up, bro? But Angelica is a very common thing for feminine power, and it's also good for like if you have a boss that's a bit of a jerk and you want to calm him down, you can use this in some boss fix work. And so, yeah, Angelica. Next thing we have is cinnamon chips. I love cinnamon chips. Cinnamon chips are very good for prosperity. They're very good for love spells, and they're very good for protection spells too. Cinnamon chips are very useful in prosperity. I use them in green candles. What I'll do is I'll take a 7-day green candle. I'll poke 8 holes in it. I'll put 8 cinnamon chips, because these are chips, not powder. I'll put 8 chips in each hole, and I will let the candle bake for 8 days with some sort of money attracting oil or crown of success oil or patchouli oil. The next thing we have is rosemary. Rosemary, another herb that's good for prosperity. It's good for love and marriage and keeping peace in the home. And so what I find that this is really good for is that if you have somebody who owes you money, especially like if you have a roommate or a friend that is like almost always at your house, almost to the point where they have a drawer in your house and they owe you money, what you can do is you can make a mojo bag to get your money back with lodestone, rosemary, and a couple of pieces of patchouli or bay leaf. Next we have mandrake root. Mandrake root is, first of all, it's more of a love herb and when it comes to root work and hoodoo, but in traditional European magic, it was more of an herb used for money spells. And the folklore between it is, first of all, you had to charge it, and it was believed the way that you charged it was you put it in water overnight, and by the next day it'd be ready to work. But the belief is that you put it with a quarter or a coin and it doubles or it triples that money. And so what I personally do is I've personally incorporated that into my own root work. What I'll do is I'll take a mandrake root, a lodestone, and a quarter. After I've charged the mandrake root and I've anointed it with the correct oils, I will also anoint the lodestone and the quarter, and I will feed the lodestone, and those will all go into a mojo bag together. Keep in mind when you're making mojo bags, you want to keep in mind the magical numbers 3, 7, 9, and I recently heard that 13 is one of them, but that is a number, like, my godmother has never, ever used 13. This is dried basil, I believe. I think this is dried basil. And it was dried poorly, as you could probably tell. It wasn't hung right. But this is dried basil. Basil is very good for money attraction. It's believed that, scents that are kind of earthy and kind of gritty, like patchouli, are very good for attracting prosperity for some reason. Maybe it's because they remind you of mulch, and mulch is very good for fertility and prosperity. If you mulch the ground before you plant something, you probably get a better crop out of it. And so that's that. This is more rosemary. Sorry. And this is mint. Mint is very good for a calming sensation in money. And what I suggest mint for is less for money magic and less for prosperity magic and more for abundance magic. And so it's a common thing that like when people go into bank offices to seek loans, they will take mint gum, mints, or peppermint or something like that, and they will chew those, and while they talk it gives a calming sense to the person that they're talking to, and they will also attract that money sense because it's mint. Mint is also a very good herb for love and romance because it's sort of a calming scent to people. This is rice. Rice is a very abundant thing. I use rice in a couple of my prosperity spells, and I'm going to give you one specific prosperity spell here in a second that I use. This is sea salt. This same spell that I'm about to give you involves sea salt, and a white candle. I'm actually going to show you guys how to do this particular ritual after I go through and show you this. This is what I would call a brujas pot. I had a teacher Her name is Catherine Rodriguez. Catherine Rodriguez. She makes YouTube videos too. And we were very close, and she taught me she taught me some things. She taught me how to make oil lamps, you know, she taught me how to make this, a brujas pot, which is a witch's pot, in Spanish. And what it is she would take things that were necessarily associated with, you know, maybe a deity or a spirit, or even maybe what she was trying to conjure up. And so what you guys see in here is that there are a lot of coins, there are a lot of shells, a lot of coins and seashells. And that is because when I work with abundance and prosperity magic, I specifically think of the ocean, because the ocean has an overwhelming amount of life in it. And that's more particularly working with Yemaya, or any other sea goddess. I prefer to think of them I don't necessarily always like to use names to them, especially when I'm working with something as general as the ocean. That's just my own personal belief. So, like I said, rice is a prosperity thing. It's sort of that's why we get the tradition of throwing rice at a wedding. It's sort of ensure the prosperity of the married couple. So what I will do is I will take this rice, I will sprinkle some in the witch's pot like this, and that is the first step to the ritual. And then next is I will take sea salt, because we're working with that sea energy, and so I want to put some sea salt in there. You know, get a little bit of, you know, just so it's very reminiscent of the ocean, and I miss the ocean so much. Oh my gosh. And I add water to that, and I light a candle, and I say a petition over it, and, you know, it might be given to a specific deity. I don't usually do that. I just invoke the power of the the ocean, you know, as a whole, or as a separate deity, or separate deities. So those were the herbs, and that was a little ritual that I do with some things. Now, but like in here, I also have curios too. Like if you look here, this is a raccoon's penis bone. This is very much associated with prosperity. You see, I have some cowrie shells, which are associated with fertility and prosperity. And I have seashells, and seashells have always been, like I said, the ocean. I have also some dice, which are associated with gambling. You know, I have some tokens, which I like to call, like, some tokens from my grandparents' gambling days. They don't gamble anymore, but some tokens in there, and those are kind of for, those are for prosperity too. You know, these are all things, and what I like to think of this as sort of like a treasure chest. And so everything in here is a treasure in some way, shape, or form. And you know how the sea is kind of, sea lore is kind of famous for taking treasure and hoarding it to itself. That's sort of the idea of spirit. Not necessarily hoarding it, but like when something falls to the bottom of the sea, you find all the treasures at the bottom of the ocean. So that's that. Let's talk a little bit more about the candle magic aspect of things. So we're going to start with this. This is Saint Martin Caballero, or Saint Martin the Horseman, Saint Martin of Tours. He has a lot of names, and he is the patron saint of businesses and charity, and more so businesses that rely on charity. And when I say businesses that rely on charity, I mean if you start a business and your business is kind of built on the idea of people walking in off of the street, or if you're one of those people that pushes around a food cart, or maybe even if you're one of those people that like, maybe if you're just one of those people that sets up like a stand in a park and plays music, and you rely on a person to give you like a couple of cents of charity, a couple of cents or something, this is the candle that you burn. Because what he is, the story behind Saint Martin is that he was a Roman general, And one day he was on his way to a city and he passed an old man who had nothing. He had nothing, literally. So what St. Martin did was he cut off his red velvet cape and he threw it on the man. And that night, while St. Martin was sleeping, the man came to him in his dreams and said he was Jesus. And sometime later, I can't say literally the next day, but sometime later, it was said that St. Martin, he left the army, became a monk, and that is how we have St. Martin the Horseman. Okay. And so, St. Martin is good for if your businesses rely on charity. If your businesses do not rely on charity, if you have a constant customer flow, or if you don't really think that charity is what you need, like if you don't really rely on strangers walking off of the street into your store, what I suggest is a St. Jude candle, which I don't have any of because I just did my candle clearing out for this month. But a St. Jude candle is very useful. And if you need if you are somebody who has to go out there and look for clients, I would suggest a Saint Sebastian or an Ochosi candle. Now, we're going to talk about what you burn with those candles, because I'm a big believer in sigils with candles. So this first sigil is the this is where my notes come in. This is the first pentacle of Jupiter. Okay? And this first pinnacle of Jupiter is for acquiring treasure and gaining money. So this might be very good in gambling situations too. This is the fourth pinnacle of Jupiter, and this pentacle is very good for what is this? For acquiring honor and treasure. So, it might be very good for being well respected as a good shop owner, shopkeeper, business owner, whatever. And finally, lodestone. Put some lodestone over some money, and you feed the lodestone every time you get some money. This is a small prosperity ritual. Some people like to name the lodestones to give them a special kick. That is all up to you. So, I don't know if this video felt a little rushed at the end. I'm sorry. But that's it. Bye.